Welcome, everyone. I am excited to introduce the guest today, Catherine Clemett. She's a best-selling author and a spiritual teacher. Catherine has amassed a worldwide following through her sharing of how Magdalena isn't just an individual, it's an order of consciousness. And her work focuses on returning the balance of the divine feminine to the planet through helping people to have a greater alignment and accessibility of who they are as divine beings. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
So my first question for you is, how did you come to this? How did you begin to be interested in this divine feminine, Mary Magdalena? Was it for you when you started?
Actually, it really wasn't from a focus on Mary Magdalene, certainly on the divine feminine. I had been in a process of spiritual searching for a number of years, and I had been involved with channels. I had been a student of Ramtha, that J.Z. Knight channels for several years in the early 80s. So I was involved with all kinds of channels. I wasn't the least bit interested in anything remotely Christian. After I left the Catholic Church when I was 18, I'm going, nope, I'm not going there. So the universe had to work really hard to get my attention. And I had been doing an advanced DNA healing course in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, back in 2004. And the head of the school stood up and said, I just read the best book I've read in years called Anna, Grandmother of Jesus. And I remember thinking, not exactly my subject matter, but she was so passionate about it. I thought I better go check this book out. And so I figure it was going to be the usual Christian, tale and story and structure. And it blew my socks off. It wasn't at all what I expected, and I know everybody, has that experience pretty much. So at the end of the book, the other key piece to this is I had an experience meeting Saint Germain, the Ascended Master Saint Germain, in a physical body in the Boston Commons in 1982 during a Ramtha dialogue. And it took a couple years of crazy things. He was like a homeless bum in the park. And it took a couple of years for me to understand that these crazy things he said were actually markers on my timeline for the next 20 years. And so, it very much had my attention about Saint Germain. So in the very last epilogue chapter that Claire wrote to the Anna, Grandmother of Jesus book, she talks about meeting Saint Germain in a physical body in the Grand Tetons. And that was the connecting point. I went, oh my God, I've never heard of anyone else who's actually met him and had an encounter with him in a physical embodiment. So my guides are like, contact her. And I'm like really shy. I would never contact authors or celebrities, but they were like relentless. So she had her email in there. So I emailed her and asked her if she'd be willing to, share her experience with me. Well, I didn't hear anything. I mean, who am I? I'm a peon who went and bought the book and was just contacting her. So I didn't expect to hear anything. So this was like June of 2004. The following February, I get an email from Claire telling me she had a cancellation for a reading with Anna. I had no idea that she did private readings with Anna. I had no clue. And I had just had one with somebody who had channeled Saint Germain and that I had been on a 3-month waiting list for. And so I had all my questions answered. So I thought, do I want to do this? Do I want to spend the money right now when I just did this whole thing? So I forgot about it. I didn't mean to not respond to Claire, but, it just kind of went by the wayside. So a few weeks after that, I get a phone call from Claire confirming my reading for March 8th. And I'm going, what reading? I'm the one that wanted to know about your encounter with Saint Germain. She goes, oh yeah, I remember that now. And then she got really intense. And she goes, I think Anna really wants to talk to you. And I'm like, me? Why would Anna really want to talk to me? I'm the one that ditched Catholicism years ago. I'm not interested in anything remotely Christian. But there was something in it, and I thought I better keep this reading. So during the reading, Anna told me that she and I were very close, that we had been every conceivable type of relationship that humans can be with one another, and that she was one of the people guiding me and helping me with my writing. And she said, we are building the New Jerusalem. I'm going, I don't know what that means, you know? So it was just like planting seeds, and I didn't know what to do with this information. So I kind of put it on the shelf, right? Went on with my life. And then these bizarre synchronistic series of events happened over the next year that actually put me together with her. And I've written all of this. I have a new autobiography out called Raising My Frequency, a spiritual journey, awakening to the more of life, where I chronicle all of these pieces plus other things, because we all go through an awakening journey of some sort, that's very personal. So I have that in all of those stories about how I was put together with Claire, and the work with Claire and the work with the Councils of Light and Anna are all in that book. So anyway, I ended up going to work for Claire, being hired as one of two people. My friend came too, to be her support team so she could bring through the sequel. But on the second day, when she was, shut up in her room trying to bring the information through, she said, it's not the same. It's not the really heightened energy when Anna so encompassed her for the first book. And she asked Anna what the problem was. And Anna said, the answer lies outside the door. Go ask Catherine Ann for a regression session, because I do past life regression. I was trained by Dolores Cannon in her QHHT system. So I lay Claire down and, got a tape recorder, and later Claire said, oh my God, this is so much easier than sitting there trying to type at the computer. So that's how all of the sessions started for the sequel. And we had no idea who was going to show up or what the information was going to be. It was a surprise every time. So
can you share with us, what was one of your really surprising moments? Where, when I'm sure you had a million of them in the writing of that book, but yeah. Is there one that stands out for you that you were like, oh my God, kind of like, whoa?
Well, there's one, because it was very jarring, and I felt responsible. And it's in the Voice of the Magdalene book. It's called The Opening of the Mouth, when I think it was Miriam of Tiana was in the body, and she just had this like cosmic global scream that was releasing the gag of the divine feminine. And it was so vehement, and I thought, I was bringing Claire back out of it, and there was quite a lag, and I thought Claire was, returned to her normal consciousness. And all of a sudden there was this blood curdling scream, and Claire's body sat bolt upright with this scream, and which was the releasing of the gag. But apparently during that process, it was so violent that Claire actually tore a ligament in her neck, which she didn't know for about 6 or 8 months why she was having such pain in her neck, that also corresponded to things that happened to Anna in the story later in the book. But I mean, I felt like totally responsible. Here I am, you're responsible for the client, that you're facilitating. So that was very unnerving. I mean, they usually weren't like that, but that's the thing that I think stood out the most, because I felt, responsible for what was happening. But it was a cosmic thing larger than what was happening to the two of us, or three of us, because Miriam of Tiana was in the body at the time.
Amazing. Yes, the book it's just so filled with so many examples and situations. So Now, when you speak of this Magdalena lineage and this Magdalena level of consciousness, can you share more with us about how you came to that aware?
Sure. So that summer, Claire had channeled Anna for a couple potlucks and for, I don't know where it was, some kind of group presentation at a bookstore somewhere. And periodically, Anna would address people in the audience, and she would address them as their Magdalene consciousness, how they had to return to their Magdalene roots and their Magdalene consciousness, and that they had something, they had a piece of the weave, they had a piece of the thread to share. And it was only with a couple people, and I'm going, what is this? And you couldn't really ask her directly. It was, you had to find it out yourself. So I started, asking in meditation and my own questions for, expansion of this understanding about Magdalene, and putting together things that Anna had said from various sources and my own inner work. I discovered that Magdalene is an order of consciousness, not just the individual. And I think part of the focus of Mary Magdalene as an individual, who is an amazing being, the counterpart of Yeshua, Jesus, and the female Christ, it isn't about her and so many people. I mean, she's an amazing teacher, an amazing being, but it isn't to, worship her and put her up on a pedestal like mankind has done with Jesus all of this time. I think it's just the catalyst to get people to ask deeper questions, because most people that resonate, not just with the books, but with the idea of Magdalene and the feminine Christ, have been students with these beings for eons, for thousands of years. And, we're being asked to remember in our soul memory what our pieces are and what our training is. I mean, not the specifics, but it's about frequency. And we've all been taught to raise our frequency through all of these years. And I think when people really get aligned with their Magdalene nature, their frequency, comes back into focus, and we recognize each other by the frequency that we carry. And that's what I put out in terms of the questions, that, you don't have to do anything. You've already done hundreds or thousands of years of work to raise your level on a soul level. So you automatically carry this frequency, and that permeates everywhere you go, everywhere you walk, whoever you interact with, no matter if you're having a good day or a bad day, that's still there, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. What I'm loving that you said is that Anna wasn't telling people that they're this and they're that. Why I love that is because oftentimes people will say, am I a Magdalene? Am I, whatever? And it's really about going within and recognizing what resonates with me, what's happening within me. Like I can imagine all the people that are just hear the word Mary Magdalena. There's something about that. I have to know more. Or you read a book, like any of the books that are out, there's just something that sparks this light that's in you that recognize yes, I know this, a knowingness, I would say. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, Magdalene carries a vibration just in the word. So is returning, that awareness on an unconscious soul level that there's more to this picture, which is, what you're saying. And we're meant to come together to be catalysts for one another now. And it's interesting because I have gone all over the world and done variations of Magdalene workshops. And there's one of my favorite parts of the workshop is this I am circle, I call it. And here's a group of strangers. Most of them don't know each other at the beginning of the workshop. It's usually a 2-day workshop. And partway through the I am circle, when they start interacting with each other, they start carrying on and blabbing, and you can't get them to stop enough to go to the next person because they've rediscovered each other. And it happened every time we did it. It didn't matter if I was in Australia or I was in Egypt or I was in, it always happened. So it's that recognition on some deeper level, of people recognizing their Magdalene brothers and sisters. And it's not just women. Men were also Magdalenes, are also Magdalenes. And men in Yeshua's time were also Magdalenes.
Yes. And we know that when Mary Magdalene also went to the south of France and traveled, she always created communities. That's one of the hallmarks of her mission and her work, was that it was all about communities. And now that we know more energetically, we're becoming more aware, maybe energetically, of this power when a vortex gets created when people come together, right? And so it's exponentially more powerful, and it's not a one-man show anymore. It's an exponentially powerful.
And that's part of returning the divine feminine to planet Earth. Absolutely. But in a different way than most people think of it. It's like my understanding of the Magdalene mission is to see the light. And the Magdalenes often go into the deepest, darkest places that no one else will go. And I've had this experience, and many people go, well, I'm a spiritual being, why am I in this corporation? Or why am I in this abuse? Or why am I in this family? Or why am I here? They think they've done something wrong. And you're there because you're holding that frequency of the Magdalenes, so the light will not go out. And most people don't have a clue that who they are or what they're doing. So the other thing, you'll notice throughout the books that the Magdalenes have had to have lifetimes of secrecy and silence. And I think what happened is when the ruling forces in terms of the Catholic Church came in, they took the teachings, and what they did is they divided them, and they stripped the information away from the energetics, away from the, things only work because you follow a certain protocol, or you have a certain frequency, or you have a certain energy. It's kind of like the thought that's coming to me is the scene in The Sound of Music when the nuns take the batteries out of the car. Well, the Magdalenes are like the batteries. You need the batteries to have the synergy to make the whole thing work. And so what the Magdalenes have always, protected is that tangibility, the energetics of it, lest it be, vanquished or destroyed or whatever. That's why there are so many secret codes and silence and all of this stuff, because when you put the two together, that's when you have the most incredible alchemy. And so the Magdalenes were protecting the energetic part, and the Catholic Church took the information, and distorted it. And that's what they put out through all of their teachings. But that isn't enough in itself, if that makes sense. So when we come together as a group, we amplify that field and that ability. And my sense is each person, has a particular gift or particular thread or something that is very meaningful to them, that is their work. Like I realized, this is my work to share this information. And, my work isn't necessarily going and doing other things that some people, who are bringing truth out in the way of exposing the stuff. I mean, that isn't my mission here. My mission is, and for each of us to be okay with what our particular piece is, because they're all meant to go together,
Exactly. In each one of us being unique, and not even to look at what anybody else is doing.
Yes.
What is calling me? What is
Mhm.
awakening in me for some, and what is my soul calling me to? Why am I here? And I love the piece of how we go in the dark places. I think many Magdalenas that I've spoken to have been in some very dark places, and you're like, has God abandoned me? Why am I here? What have I
Yeah.
done? Yeah. So that teaching right there that you gave of, no, this is what we signed up for. This is kind of like what we do. This is our thing,
It is our thing. And
Yeah.
we're the ones that volunteered. Anna, I learned from Anna, she calls the Magdalenes the midwives of the shift of consciousness. So anytime there is a planetary system or a system in an ascension process or in an awakening process, not just here on earth, the Magdalenes raise their hand and they'll go, I'll go wherever it is, whatever universe it is. It's, certainly not limited to here. And they go to be the midwives of the shift of consciousness. And oftentimes they may never know who they are as a Magdalene. They just know that they're compelled, to help in some way. Or, and some of them just, it gets overwhelming. And I have heard of, some that just have mental illness breaks or commit suicide because they can't, it's too difficult. And for many, it really helps put it in perspective when you begin to understand who you are in the perspective of the darkness or the, difficulties that you've had sometimes in your life. It's not because you're bad, it's because of the frequency you hold.
Well, thank you. How do you have a experiential exercise you'd like to take?
Yes. Are you ready? So just everybody just take an easy breath and gently close your eyes. And just drop your awareness down into your heart center. And just thank your heart for always leading you, whether you listen to it or not, whether you trust it or not, whether you believe it or not. Just know that it's never let you down. So just send gratitude and light and an incredible sense of embracing your heart and all that it does for you. And from this place, I invite you to send out an invitation from your own personal space to all of the Magdalenes, past, present, and future, to come and be with you in this moment. All of those that have been seeding the light for eons, and all of those that are here guiding you and reminding you of who you are. And ask for a specific Magdalene. It can be male or female that is aligned with you to step forward. And just become aware of who presents themselves. Some of you may be visual, some of you may be an auditory type of person. So just see what shows up. If it's a visual that they're giving you, if it's a sentence or words that they're giving you, just ask for clarity. And don't worry that you think you might be making it up. You're not. So just breathe into that and ask this particular Magdalene, what is the message for you today? Your specific Magdalene message for you, and how you can align more closely with unfolding the memory in your soul of being a Magdalene. And it may or may not be connected with the history of Mary Magdalene or that time. It may be something completely different, but it doesn't mean it's any lesser importance or greater importance, because the Magdalene order is a weave throughout the cosmos. And you're just asking for more clarity for yourself in your part. So just take about 20 seconds in silence and allow this communion with this beautiful Magdalene in front of you to take place. And give permission to receive what they have to share with you. And now, thank this Magdalene and send gratitude to all of the Magdalenes, and particularly to the being we know as Mary Magdalene. Although our understanding through the voice of the Magdalenes that Magdalene was a composite of 3 physical individuals. So sending gratitude to these 3 physical individuals that make up the soul of Mary Magdalene, that's the counterpart of Yeshua. And ask to remember this experience so you can go back and retrieve any energy, any guidance, any information or understanding. Ask that it be readily available to you again. And also just send gratitude to all of your Magdalene brothers and sisters, to those that you have met in this lifetime, and to those whom you have yet to meet in this lifetime. And know that it is all being perfectly orchestrated for you to step into a greater awareness and greater awakening of who you are as a divine being, of who you are as a Magdalene, and of who you are as a midwife of the current shift of consciousness that we are in the midst of. And just feel all of the gratitude from the Magdalenes, from all of the beings of light, the ascended masters, the angels, the archangels, from all of the elemental beings, from all of nature, as you step into more fully doing your part to return the divine feminine and the sanctity of life upon this planet. For that remembrance is sorely needed to be grounded once again. Know that even if your mind doubts it, you have an important part to play. Even if it's taking your feet off and grounding in the grass or putting your feet in the sea, you are doing your part. You don't have to be a teacher or a speaker or on a platform or a stage to do it. You merely do it by following your inner promptings, by being kind and considerate and showing up wherever you're directed to show up. That is being a Magdalene. So now just thank your body and thank your your being and your awareness are participating in this experience.
Beautiful, Catherine. But like, you can't just leave us here with the three Marys in the Mary and the, can you tell us a little bit more about what are you speaking of, and this idea that different energies and what was the teaching you received on that, or how did that play forward in your work with Anna?
For those of you that read Anna, the Voice of the Magdalenes, you'll see that they're called the Three Marys. In the book is Miriam of Tiana, Mary of Bethany, and Miriam, who make up the Three Marys. And there are various reasons. Some of it has to do with the genetic lines and seeding the genetic lines through children, through these women with Yeshua. That's part of it. But when they came through and said that they were the Three Marys, I mean, Claire goes, we can't put this out there. That's polygamy, right? But there's a much larger understanding. And I wanted to understand it. So I asked when I went inside, I said, what is this deal with the Three Marys? And what I was told that Yeshua came in as an avatar. He came in with this incredible energy field and information, knowing who he was and where he came from. And the Three Marys, even though they were light conceived, which we go into in the Anna books, I'm not going to go into that here, they still, each one of them could not balance Yeshua. So it took the composite of the three of them that made up his twin flame energy, basically downloaded in three bodies at the same time. Look at me, I got chills, to match his energetic field. So that was the explanation that I was given, that it needed the three of them to balance it. And there's something that they don't go into that Yeshua calls squaring the circle. That's the three of them and him as the fourth. So there are all kinds of esoteric, geometrical, explanations and other things. So the alchemy can go forth of what needed to be laid down for the shift of consciousness.
That is very esoteric. And at first I thought you meant all of their energies went into Mary Magdalene, but no, you're saying there's three distinct bodies. Yes. And as a composite is Mary Magdalene, very powerful energy, very interesting. So I can imagine we've just stretched everybody's mind a little bit with your teaching. And if you're curious, look, go further, look deeper into this. There's so much that we just don't understand. And that's okay. That's why they call it a mystery. It's a mystery for us. So any final words that you'd like to share with before we close?
My focus in all of this has always been to help people understand that they're the key. It's not outside of you. As extraordinary as Jesus or Yeshua or Mary Magdalene or Anna or all of these people are, they know who they are. They don't need to be put up on a pedestal and worshiped. They need us to get that we are as extraordinary as they are, and for us to build our own experience and our own inner temple and our own experience, so we can begin to hold the frequency and do the journey similar to how they did.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being with us. Bless.